Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're unpacking a profound, truly timeless metaphor for finding inner peace amidst the chaotic noise of the modern world. We're calling it the Great Trade. Basically, we're going to explore a fascinating story about a king, two of his subjects, and the single most profitable, life-altering internal transaction a person can make. The source text pulls us right into this allegory, and honestly, it perfectly mirrors the internal struggles we face every single day.
So picture this. The story is set in a tumultuous, war-ridden age. It's a time of constant upheaval where literally nothing feels permanent. And right in the middle of this chaos, an infinitely merciful king sends a decree to two of his subjects. He's referring to the estates, the workshops, and the machinery he previously entrusted to them. Through his noble envoy, he makes this incredible offer. Sell me the property you now hold in trust, so that I may keep it for you. Let it not be destroyed for no purpose. He promises that after the war, he'll give it all back to them in much better condition, and on top of that, he's going to pay a really high price for the transaction. I mean, think about how merciful that is. He's offering to buy back something that already belongs to him, strictly to protect it and increase its value for them.
Now, after hearing this decree, we see two completely opposite reactions. On one side, we have the intelligent subject. When he hears this offer, he's thrilled. He proudly and happily agrees to sell the property, offers thousands of thanks, and ends up living a happy life in the king's palace. But then, on the other side, we have this arrogant, pharaoh-like guy. He's completely selfish, entirely focused on his fleeting, momentary enjoyment. He literally ignores the earthquakes and the collapsing world around him, basically saying, "Who's the king? I'm not selling my property, and I'm definitely not ruining my fun." Well, as you can probably guess, he quickly loses absolutely everything, falls into a pitiful state, and suffers massive torment.
Section 1. Our roles in modern life. Let's decode this metaphor for today.
When we break down the symbols from the source text, the pieces really start to fall into place. That infinitely powerful king, that represents the creator. The estate, the workshops, and the machinery we were given, that represents our body, our soul, our mind, our imagination, and our senses, like our eyes and tongues. And that tempestuous battlefield, that is exactly the fast-paced, ever-changing, stressful modern world we live in right now, a place where we're constantly losing our time, our youth, and the things we love.
And in the middle of all this modern hustle, there's this agonizing question that echoes in the back of all our minds. Since everything will leave our hands, will perish and be lost, is there no way in which we can transform it into something eternal? It's the ultimate modern dilemma, right? We're desperately trying to hold on to youth, wealth, and life itself, while battling this daily anxiety that it's all just slipping away.
Moving on to Section 2. 5 Profitable Returns. This is where we look at the ultimate spiritual trade.
The first profit is all about transmutation to eternity. In our fast-paced lives, all those fleeting, transient moments, if we just spend them for our own ego, they rot away like wasted seeds. But when that same life is spent for the Creator, those decaying seeds actually transform into everlasting flowers of blessedness and eternity. So something as simple as your morning coffee or your daily commute, when done with the right intent, takes on a completely eternal meaning. It's a real game changer.
The second profit is straightforward and incredibly powerful. The exalted exchange. In return for this massive trade, you're given the extraordinarily high price of paradise. Just think about that. You are taking temporary property, which was merely entrusted to you and will eventually leave your hands anyway, and you're returning it to its true owner. In exchange, you get ultimate, eternal inner peace and an everlasting reward. You trade the temporary to gain the eternal.
In the third profit, it brings in this unbelievable multiplier effect. We're talking a 1,000-fold increase. The actual value of every single limb and sense you have skyrockets by 1,000 times. You have the exact same physical tools, but who you employ them for changes their worth entirely.
Let's take the human intellect, for example. This is absolutely crucial for modern stress management. If you don't sell your intellect to the Creator and instead keep it just for your ego, it becomes an ill-omened, exhausting tool. It literally crushes your weak shoulders with the sorrows of the past and the fears of the future. People often run to superficial entertainment or unhealthy habits just to escape the anxiety their own minds create. But if you trade that intellect back to its true owner, suddenly it becomes this talismanic key. It unlocks infinite treasures of compassion and wisdom in the universe, turning into a comforting guide that actually helps you navigate life.
The exact same thing applies to our senses. If you use your eye merely for your ego, it downgrades to a simple pandering tool for fleeting aesthetics. If you use your tongue just for your stomach, it becomes nothing more than a factory watchman. But employ those same senses on behalf of the divine. Wow. Your eye transforms into an overseer reading the magnificent book of being. Your tongue becomes an expert inspector of the Creator's infinite kitchens of mercy. You stop being just a cog in a consumer society and become part of a profound universal wisdom.
Rounding out the benefits, the fourth profit is freedom from the heavy, suffocating burden of modern life and that feeling of helpless anxiety. We are inherently vulnerable, and our needs are endless. If we don't rely on an omnipotent power, our conscience is always going to be troubled. The relief you feel when you surrender that burden is just unmatched. And finally, the fifth profit guarantees that the exalted reward for your worship and gratitude will be given to you as magnificent fruits exactly when you need them the most.
Section 3. The cost of refusal. Now we have to look at the 5 devastating losses.
So, what happens if you stubbornly refuse this transaction? The source outlines 5 huge losses. First, the youth and property you love so much will vanish anyway, leaving your hands totally empty, but the weight of your mistakes will hang around your neck. Second, there's a penalty for betraying the trust, because you spent the most valuable tools in the most worthless places. Third, you insult divine wisdom by degrading your profound human equipment to a level below animals. Fourth, you'll be left groaning under the unbearably heavy burden of life, trying to carry it all on your own weak shoulders. And fifth, those beautiful gifts like your mind and heart, by misusing them, you're shaping them into a genuinely ugly form for the afterlife.
Now, hearing all this, our modern skeptical minds usually jump to one big question. Is it really so burdensome to sell this trust? Is this internal transformation too difficult or too restrictive for our busy everyday lives? Honestly, the fear of missing out or being restricted is why so many people avoid making this trade in the first place.
Section 4. Starting the internal trade. Let's talk about the daily application and safe progression.
The text assures us that the practical steps for a believer are actually incredibly simple and not burdensome in the least. First, you act and embark on all things in God's name, almost like a disciplined soldier. Second, you move and remain still in accordance with His permission, acting within broad, permissible limits that more than satisfy our natural desires. And third, because we're human and we all make mistakes, if you fall short, you simply seek His forgiveness. This is the ultimate practical formula for managing daily stressors. Knowing you're not in total control, but rather under the protection of a perfect power, that brings immense lightness and peace.
The humble, peaceful mindset required to start this internal trade is beautifully captured in this concluding prayer from the text. O Lord, forgive our faults and accept us as your slaves. Make us sure holders of your trust until the time comes when it is taken from us. This isn't just a petition. It's a profound declaration of surrender, where a person completely accepts their limits and safely hands over their heavy burden.
So as we wrap up this explainer, we have to turn this eternal question inward. Your eyes, your tongue, your intellect, and that massive weight of life anxiety you've been carrying on your shoulders. Are you going to keep trying to carry all of that by yourself on this exhausting, temporary battlefield? Or are you finally ready to make the great trade and sell the trust back to its true owner? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll catch you in the next one.